Terry McLaurin has officially requested a trade out of Washington. Various players shine during Commanders training camp and much more. I'm Matthew Heiserman, your host of the Rays Hail Report, and today we are joined by the host of Rambling with Rio Robinson. Rio, it's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me on, man. What a time to be talking Washington Commanders football. Our star receiver requested a trade. Camp is going well, and DC is voting on a potential new RFK stadium. Lots to talk about, Matthew.
Absolutely, and I know you went live for over an hour last night, kind of a breaking news live stream. I think that one's sitting at over 15,000 views at this point, so a very successful stream over on your channel. I know I tagged your channel in the description of this video, so make sure if you're watching, check that out. But getting right into it, Terry McLaurin, he's by far his agent's biggest client. So I just want to start by asking, how much of that trade request was really due to Buddy Baker, and how much of a holdup do you think Baker is causing in the progression of this deal being done?
Yeah, I know for anyone that watches my channel, I've been kind of foreshadowing that this was kind of the last move left for Buddy Baker and Terry McLaurin, because all the leverage still falls to the team, considering he's still under contract for the 2025 season. So we've seen the Eastern Motors 32-minute monologue where he spoke to the media about why he deserves what he deserves, and we've seen him pulling the heartstrings of fans all week after our training camp practices, where the holdout turned into a hold in, and there's been no traction on a contract. So good old Buddy Baker and Terry McLaurin, the last thing to do was to request a trade. The verbiage in the words here matter. They didn't demand a trade. He requested a trade. And we've seen Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel in the year that he asked it, not this year. Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson. We've seen T. Higgins. We've seen guys. This is a part of the new athlete rollout. The new rollout to getting a contract extension. You're going to wipe your Instagram at some point. You're going to change your profile picture out of the uniform that you're currently in. And at some point, you may request a trade. So this is the last move on the Terry Buddy Baker side of things. And like you mentioned, Buddy Baker doesn't have any experience writing a contract of this magnitude. So this is a first-time experience for him. I think that plays a lot bigger role than people want to admit in why this contract is so far from being completed.
Absolutely. And if you're tuning in, make sure you like and subscribe. It's completely free, helps out the channel a ton. We're just 3 subscribers away from 100.
Subscribe. This young man is out here pushing out content. He's knowledgeable. He knows ball. He knows the team. And he pulls guests on this channel. Make sure y'all sub up this guy, Matt, man.
I appreciate that. And, you kind of touched on this. The amount of star players who have requested a trade that never end up getting traded is a very long list. For instance, Deebo in 2022, Lamar in 2023, Myles Garrett earlier this year, but then he signed his extension just 1 month later. So, do you think McLaurin actually wants to be traded? It's tough to say because, you look at how he's interacting with fans at training camp, and you look at that and you kind of think, it's, it seems like he wants to be here. So do you actually think he wants to get traded, or is this just really a tactic to add more pressure on Washington, get that ball rolling?
I don't think Terry wants to be traded. I don't think Terry wants to uproot his life. He just got married a couple months ago. He's built a home here. He sees the love that Santana Moss is getting. He is on his way to a Ring of Fame Washington Redskins football team commander lifer. So, no, I don't think he wants to get traded. I think if push comes to shove, he will do what he has to do and what he feels is best for himself and his family. But no, I think the percentage of Terry actually wanting to be traded is probably under 10%. I think it's very low. And I think this is his last cards all in on the table, because I think it would have been worded a little bit different if he wanted out. If he wanted out of Washington, I think it would have been more so a Terry McLaurin is demanding a trade from Washington. And this is interesting, though. The fact that it's gotten to this, it's We finally reached adversity in the Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, Jayden Daniels era of Washington, because only a 3-game losing streak, getting 55 scored on us in the NFC Championship, that's not really adversity in year one of the program. This is still adversity, and we're going to find out what the culture, what this front office, and what the makeup of this team is like during this process.
And McLaurin was just placed number 52 in the top 100. I saw that came out a few minutes ago.
Okay.
And then, District Divided in the chat, great channel over there, dropped them a sub. And they say neither side is budging, right? And I kind of want to get into that. I think Washington's looking closer to 27 million annually. That's at least what Stephen A. Smith said. I don't know if you really want to take his word on that. And then reports have said McLaurin is eyeing over 33 million annually. What would a fair deal look like between both sides in your mind?
Oh man, I think the major thing here is Adam Peters as a second-year general manager. He's not trying to be the first general manager that jumps out and sets a precedent that 30-plus-year-old receivers are now getting $30+ million or over. It has not happened. It has not happened yet. All of the contracts we've seen negotiated and that we've juxtaposed to the Terry situation, there are age differences. And I know the production is there, guys, but the conversation has never been as simple as pay Terry or why hasn't this got done yet? It's a lot more nuanced than that. But I think the number we end up having to get, I think the number that ends up getting it done is $29 or $30 million a year. I think it's going to end up around 29 or 30, and I think it's going to only be guaranteed for 2 years, and that third year is probably going to be voided, but they're going to front load it. They're going to fix his salary for this year, and they're going to end up at around $29-30 million a year for 2 years.
And, Sutton got 23. And there's a difference in terms of production and skill set, but that's the most comparable we've seen in terms of age. They're both 29 years old, soon to be 30 years old. I think Terry turns 30 in September, Sutton in October. So how does that deal kind of affect your perspective on this and just the fact that you see someone of the same age? Because this is one of the first guys we've seen with similar age that we can really compare it to. So the fact that he got 10 million less than, in theory, what Terry wants, what does that mean to you?
Oh, man, it's just you don't want to play the comparison game, but you kind of have to, because that's how deals get done, And just when Deshaun Watson got fully guaranteed from the Browns, that didn't mean that everyone should give quarterbacks fully guaranteed contract, but it does open the door and start the conversation. You don't have to do bad business because bad business is being done in front of you. But I feel Terry, because Terry is better than DK Metcalf at this point of his career. You can go through the numbers. I know DK has more touchdowns than him, but they're from the same draft class, and one is 27 and one is turning 30 by week 3 of the season. So those things do matter. And an extension is not this extension kicks in at his age 31 season. It doesn't kick in now. So you're talking age 31, 32, 33. We have not seen, like, people are pointing to Tyreek Hill's deal. Tyreek Hill negotiated his contract in 2022 when he was 27, 28 years old, coming off of 1,800 and 1,700-yard seasons as the best weapon in the league. Those scenarios do not correlate to this specific situation that we have going on here. And I started with a conversation like Mike Evans' deal. Mike Evans got 2 for 52. That's $26 million a year. But when you look at the actual nitty-gritty of the contract, it's a 2-year, $41 million deal. DK Metcalf's deal actually looks like 2 years, $60 million, so $30 million a year. So you got to look at the guarantees of these contracts more so than the higher number. But the agents, they just want fans eating up what the higher number is, even though it's fool's gold and monopoly money.
So I guess my last question on Terry, panic level 1 to 10, where are you at right now?
5.5, 6-ish. Like, and the panic level is more so, do they get an extension done? Terry is 100% not getting traded by this team in 2025, but are they going to get an extension done? Because if push comes to shove, he's going to play on his current deal this year, and they're going to push it on to 2026 where they can franchise him and really have full control over the situation some more. So
now, would he play this year, or do you think he would hold out if they don't get the extension done by the
it
start
would be one of the more unwise things I've ever seen in football if a 30-year-old wide receiver sat a whole season. Now, I watched the Le'Veon Bell situation as a running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. His career never was able to be resuscitated after he sat out a season. Terry, you cannot lose a year of football. I don't think he's that dug into this process. He would show up week one like, all right, I'm here. For $23 million, and we would have to push this over to 2026.
So getting into training camp, I know you've been there a lot so far. You got the new ownership. I mean, not necessarily new, but still fairly recently new ownership. You're coming off a very successful season. What has the overall vibe looked like, especially during the open practices, when I'm sure there's a lot more fans this year than you've seen in previous years?
Oh, it's packed, and since it's so disgustingly hot and humid outside, they've pushed all the practices up till 8. So the lines are starting at 6 a.m. So 6 a.m. bright and early, you're watching lines that are packed all the way through the parking lots there at Ortho Virginia Training Center at Commanders Park. The setup out there is different. It looks nice. It looks professional. There are celebrities coming in and out of camp. The vibes are well. We got to hear from our new team president, Mark Klaus. Dan Quinn addressed the fans to open up the first open practice of the year, and the vibes are great, man. I know the Terry situation is a looming cloud over the entire operation right now, but the stuff on the field, it's good vibes. Guys are getting better, and you can see that is a good football team out there, and I think we're going to get good football from both sides of the field, and I think players are buying into what coaches are selling them. Everything that you're hearing at the podium and seeing out on the practice field, it is a night and day difference of the vibes of training camp that I've been to during past regimes.
Just one subscriber to 100. Make sure you smash that like and subscribe button. We got 13 viewers right now. Most we've had on a live stream so far. So I appreciate everyone who's tuning in. And, sticking with the wide receiver room, one of the standouts has been Washington's 4th round pick, Jayden Lane. What has he kind of shown you at camp, not just as a punt returner, because I think we knew he was going to be very relevant as a punt returner this year, but also as a pass catcher and one of Jayden's top targets with McLaurin there.
Matt, he's fast. He is fast. Some guys run 40s. Like I remember Antonio Gibson running a 4.3 at the combine, but his play speed was not that of a 4.3 player. Jayden Lane looks every bit as fast as his 40-yard dash. And a couple people called me out because I said, this is the fastest player here possibly since Brandon Banks. And they were like, what are you talking about? D-Jax was way faster than Lane. And I was like, Lane ran a faster 40-yard dash than D-Jax. D-Jax maybe in a straight line vertical route is faster because that's the best deep threat the league's ever seen. But this type of speed has to be out there on the field. But on top of that, he's a lot more compact built than I thought he was. He's not a very small person despite being a 5'10 receiver. He has sure hands. He's catching, and he looks like he has a pretty good route tree as well. So he looks like a well-rounded receiver. He gives me early rookie second year Jamison Crowder with the Redskins vibe, but with Deshaun Jackson type speed. And Jayden looks for him early and often. I know Terry's not there, so he's got to look for guys other than Debo, who's the only number one out there right now. But he shows up early and often, and I'm very excited to see Jayden Lane in joint practices and in training. And in preseason.
And I mean, talk about a 5'10 receiver going up over Sanderson and Quan Martin on that one play. Just being able to see his speed and his ability to track down that ball, despite his lack of height, is really, really enticing in a wide receiver. And then I know I made a post on X yesterday predicting my 53-man wide receiver list for Washington. Who do you have in that mix? I know it gets a little iffy towards the end. Do you have Ja'Cory Brooks, who was the UDFA, KJ Osborn, maybe Michael Gallup. What does that 53-man receiver core look like for you?
I gotta see Ja'Cory Brooks in a preseason game and in these joint practices because he may be a gamer and just not a practice player because he drops a lot of passes. And like we were right in front of the wide receivers' individual drills where they were running goal line fade slants and outs on air, no defense. And Ja'Cory dropped like 3 passes in one drill right in front of all of the fans. And it was like, he has a problem with concentration drops at times, but you can see that he is a talented receiver. I have no idea who the 6th receiver is going to be because we know who the top 5. We know it's Terry, Debo, Lane, Luke, Noah Brown. Who's going to be the last guy in that room? KJ Osborn and Gallup are vets and they have NFL experience, but you don't hear their name really at practice. You don't really see them getting much burn with the ones. So who's the next guy off the list? So, and Chris Moore is the one getting a lot of, it looks like it's Chris Moore right now. He's 32 years old. He's played a little bit in the league, but guys are calling him C-Mo. He's getting a nickname like he's a part of this thing here. I think preseason will tell us about how that last receiver spot, or we could be leaving that last spot available for a potential cut candidate from another team when rosters get trimmed down to 53. So I don't think there's any guarantees of who's going to be that last spot, but I'm for sure they're going to keep 6. Cliff Kingsbury uses so many receivers in this spread type offense. So it's going to be 6 receivers. I just don't know who the 6th guy is going to be.
So yesterday I had KJ on that list, and I do think KJ's better than Gallup just because Gallup was retired last year, and, he offers less on special teams. But I also wouldn't be mad if you put Brooks over Osborn just because Terry's 29, Noah Brown's 29, and Debo's 29. So if you want to gear towards that youth, get a UDFA in there. I think he's 23 years old. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. And then sticking with some receivers, what have you seen so far from Ben Sinnott and Luke McCaffrey, 2 guys who have had fairly unproductive careers as of now? They were relatively high draft picks, and I'd say they have a lot of pressure going into this season.
Yeah, probably more of that on Ben Sinnott being a 2nd-round draft pick, and the first 2 rounds of the draft are treated with so much reverence. Ben Sinnott's look good. They're definitely doing a lot more tight end things with him. He's moving well, and he's been very sure-handed. It's a very important year for these 2 players. And I'll add, I know it's a defensive player, but the 3 people probably with the most pressure on them this year are Luke McCaffrey, Johnny Newton, and Ben Sinnott. I need to see more from those guys. I don't think there's anything Luke McCaffrey can do in practice to show it to me, though. Like, I need to see in game situations him actually being a contributor on the offense. I hope that there's something they saw in Luke that I don't see, because with Luke, he feels like it would be a success story if we can get Ryan Grant from Jay Gruden's era type production from him. And I just don't see it. I don't see it. They want it to be a thing. I want to believe in it, but I'm not sure. We're going to see. He's still learning how to play receiver too. He's only been a receiver for 3 years.
It's interesting because you mentioned practice, and he seems like a guy who works his tail off during practice, and it just hasn't really translated to the games yet. So maybe we'll see. He probably has a better understanding of the playbook this year. He probably has a better connection with Jayden Daniels this year. So maybe he looks a little better in games. That's something we'll have to wait and see. But after a week of camp, Debo Samuel's connection with Jayden Daniels is already very apparent. Is this the best version of Debo we're going to see since his 2021 first-team All-Pro year?
Yeah, I think we're going to see Debo getting active over here. The only silver lining and plus side to the Terry McLaurin contract saga is that Jayden and Debo are getting all the work together. Their synergy, their cohesion, and he's looking for him very often in practice. And they're not even making Debo really do too much gadgety or from the slot or from the backfield, Swiss Army knife type stuff. They got him running a full route tree. They got him doing only wide receiver things. So I think there's a plan to throw the ball to number 1 a lot. He's in great shape. He looks great. You don't have to worry about OTA videos where he's not going 100% full speed. He has something to prove in a 1-year prove it, I need some money situation here in DC. And he's heard all of the chatter. He's heard all of the discourse surrounding his fitness level and his weight. I think Debo is going to have a phenomenal season and over 1,000 all-purpose easy here.
100%. And, Debo's first catch was obviously really good coverage from Tyler Owens, who is the next player I want to get into. He's received a lot of praise. He's second-year safety. With Washington having a fairly weak safety room, right? They have Quan Martin, but after that, you still have Will Harris, right? But I think you could definitely have space for a young guy to come in and make a very big impact in the safety room just because of the lack of star power and the lack of depth. So what can we expect to see from Owens in 2025? What role will he have on this team?
I don't think they have a defined specific role cut out for T.O., but I say all the time, he's like a Madden created player with all the sliders turned up. He's built and has the shoulders of like Bobby Wagner. He moves like Mikey Sainristil. It's very freakish, man. Like, you don't want to throw comparisons like Sean Taylor out there, but build and athleticism wise, that's the kind of player that's the type of skill set that he offers a defense. And we have two starting safeties, but they're running a lot of sub package stuff, and we're running a lot with three safeties on the field. Tyler Owens may not take the first snap on the field with the defense, but you're going to see him getting starter type minutes because Joe Witt loves him. And he's out there he's getting a lot of reps and he's making plays versus the one. So I think we're going to see a lot more of Tyler Owens on defense, a little bit less on special teams in 2025.
Another second-year guy to keep an eye out for, Johnny Newton. And he played 47.55% of defensive snaps last season. After losing Jonathan Allen in free agency, you obviously bring in Kinlaw. But what do you think that defensive snap percentage could look like this season?
I don't know what it's going to look like when the season gets here, but I know as we sit here on August 1st, Johnny Newton be like the fourth defensive tackle in the rotation right now. Like, he's like the fourth guy. I'm seeing more Eddie Goldman at least when I was out there and what people are telling me, there's a lot more Goldman, Kinlaw, Payne, and then Johnny. Johnny Newton's also unrecognizable. He cut his hair. He lost a ton of weight. He been on the same gym routine I've been on recently. He looks like a different player. He looks almost undersized to be a defensive tackle at this point. That was our first of 3 second-round picks last year. So probably the most pressure of all these players to be a contributor. We're sitting here trying to put together who's going to manufacture pass rush and pressure on quarterbacks this year. Well, Johnny Newton was supposed to be the best pass rushing defensive tackle of that class, and a lot of people viewed him like a first-round pick. If that's the case, I need him to show that this year. He can't just be some back-of-the-room rotational piece. He's going to have to show why we took him there and why he was a steal of the 2024 NFL draft. I'm hoping to see him show that this year, because if not, then we're going to have some conversations about that draft class minus Coleman, Sainristil, and Jayden.
And I think in some sense, I'm looking for first-round pick production from him just because it was his foot injury that kind of prevented him from being a first-round pick in the first place. And I think it's kind of the same thing with also Trey Amos, right? He was injured, which is what kept him from being drafted a little bit higher. And I know Peter said he was contemplating drafting him in the first round. So I think those are two guys who I'd still expect first round production from going forward. And then the last player I want to look at is Von Miller, obviously 36 years old. How has he looked? What are some realistic expectations we can set for him this year?
He don't look 36 years old out on the football field, man. He's in great shape. He's probably only going to practice once or twice a week because he gets, when you're a future first ballot Hall of Famer, you get unlimited veteran rest days. But coming off the edge, he still has some of the best and most natural bend that I've ever seen at Redskins football team Commander Park ever. So I'm excited to see him. We don't need to start him. We don't need to worry about him defending the run. We just need him to apply pressure to quarterbacks. He's here to hunt, and he's here to create opportunities for the players next to him. I don't think it's necessarily the sack number he gets here that we should be necessarily focusing on. It's the impact, the presence he has. Offenses have to acknowledge his presence every time he's on the football field, and that attention is going to open up things for the players next to him. I'm excited. That's Von Miller on our football.
Yeah.
We got Bobby Wagner and Von Miller on the same defensive unit. That is so cool, and he's very excited to be here. His opening presser once he got with the team, 22 minutes long. I think they may have a little bit bigger role for Vaughn than a lot of us anticipate.
And I was thinking about it recently. Imagine what this team would look like if a hypothetical where every team went back to their prime. Now you have Miller, Wagner, Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler. I mean, this team would be unbelievable. But, with just over a month until the season starts, are there any positions on this team that you're still a little concerned about? Maybe you think they still need a little bit of help in that area?
I don't really think. I mean, the wide receiver room is just missing Terry. Like the wide receiver room, once Terry gets out there, I'm cool. But the offensive line, I think we all need to relax and we need to have some patience with. We'll get a better understanding or grasp for where Josh Connerly and some of the newer pieces of the O-line, how they fit into the equation, because they've only practiced in pads 2 times. So how much of a in-depth in the trenches assessment can we have when these guys have only put on pads twice? Football is not played in shells or just practice jerseys. So, I mean, I'm not really looking at adding more to the roster right now. We need to see what we got first.
And then my final question before we wrap things up. We made the NFC Championship game last year. There's a lot of expectations for this team. What would Washington have to accomplish this year for you to be satisfied? Is it Super Bowl or bust after the championship game last year?
That sounds good, but I think we're capable of it, and I think our Super Bowl title window has officially opened up. But as long as this team finds its way back into the postseason, wins another playoff game, that is another successful season of the regime as they push into year 3, where they're really in Super Bowl or bust mode. But yeah, just get back to the postseason, win another game, Super Bowl or bust. It sounds great because I think we're capable of it, and I think we have an MVP level Super Bowl winning quarterback on the roster right now. But Super Bowl bust and I think that's a little bit too aggressive a statement right now.
Absolutely. And, with that being said, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Is there anything else you want to say to the people watching? Where can they find some of your work?
Oh, yeah, man. Rio Robinson on YouTube, shows called Rambling with Rio. Rio_Robinson91 on X, Instagram. Rio Robinson91 on TikTok. I'm working on building up the TikTok as well this season. Also, on my way out, Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt looks like a good running back. And at some point, we got to stop prefacing all JCM discourse with, I don't want to put too much on the 7th round pick. Now, the guy's just good at football, guys. He's good. He has the natural, innate ability of a running back that could start in this league, and we need to accept that.
Actually, I did want to get into him, if you don't mind, if I go into him real quick.
Let's go.
He was the one thing I wanted to talk about that I forgot to get into, but I really like what I've seen, just because in the NFC Championship game last year, we saw the Eagles get 2 50-plus rushes, one from Saquon, I think, to start the game, and then Will Shipley later in the game. He brings that explosiveness that really could match what we're seeing, and something that maybe B-Rob or Eckler doesn't bring with that breakout run potential. Do you think he could be competing for, or actually I do think he will be competing. Do you think he'll get that starting role at some point this season?
I don't even really think we should be concerned with that, because it's already a running back. And congratulations on hitting 100 subscribers, man. Your first 100, man. How does it feel?
Appreciate it, man. Feels good. We're going to keep going from here. We had to go at 100 for the start of the season. I think we could reach 150.
Mm-hmm. 200, man. Shoot higher, man. Shoot for 100 more before the season starts because the algorithm is picking up. But to continue what I was saying, we should not be really concerned with JCM supplanting Brian Robinson as RB1 because there's no alpha one running back here. It's a committee. And when you have a committee, there's no lead dogs. And when you provide an element that lacks in the room, like JCM has, he's agile. He can accelerate and decelerate. He has good vision. And that speed is something we're missing. He's going to get the ball this year. He's going to get in the end zone this year. So I'm not really concerned about where he fits on the depth chart because he will be on the final roster and he will be out on that football field with 5 this year.
Absolutely. He's just a guy who really loves to initiate contact. He's not going to go down after that first tackle. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in this backfield. And you have McNichols, who's going to be turning 30 soon. You have B-Rob and Eckler, who both have expiring contracts after this season. They're not going to bring back both. Maybe they bring back one. I'm not even sure about that. So I do think he'll probably be the number one guy by the start of next season. But, if you made it up to this point, I really appreciate you tuning in. Again, make sure you like and subscribe. It's completely free, helps the channel grow significantly. Matthew Heiserman here on the Raytail Report alongside Rio Robinson. And as always, we will see you next time.